We are grateful to gather both online and in person as the Unitarian Universalist Society for inspiration, music, learning, and conversation. I'm Peggy Garrigus, Director of Congregational Life, and I'm also your Zoom host for this morning. If you're visiting our service today, welcome. We hope you find the service meaningful. As Unitarian Universalists, we don't all believe the same things, but we affirm and promote 7 principles that guide our life together. One of those principles is respect for the interdependent web of all existence of which we are a part. This morning, Reverend Diana Smith will be joined by 2 of our UUS Green Sanctuary members, Sally Hartman and Miriam Kashia, who will be sharing the message and leading the service. And now over to Sue Otto for an announcement about the installation service for Reverend Diana.
Good morning. It's great to see faces here. This is the first time I've been back in the sanctuary since all of this began, so I'm really thrilled to be here. I'm speaking on behalf of the Installation Planning Committee. As you, I hope, are aware, 2 weeks from today in the afternoon, we will be formally installing Diana Smith. No, don't panic, Diana. Too many Dianas. Diana Smith as our settled minister. So this will be a joyous occasion. One of the things that we are preparing for this event is our celebration bags that will contain some items that will be part of the service of installation, so part of the rituals and so forth, and a commemorative piece. One of the things that we are doing is to personally deliver these bags to members and friends of the congregation. And we need more people to deliver the bags. So I am asking people who are willing to deliver bags. We're hoping, currently I've been saying 10 bags, but I think it will be less if we get people to volunteer. I have brought a clipboard here if you're willing to do this. You can sign up, and then I will contact you when the bags are ready for pickup. This really involves a week from today or Monday following picking up your bags, and then sometime during the week delivering them to the people who are on your list. Peggy has been very nice in saying that she will group the names and addresses so that you're not going from Coralville to Iowa City to North Liberty or whatever. So they will be grouped in a territory that's close by for each thing. This is a very nice way to actually engage with this celebration in a very low contact, safe way. So please contact me if you're interested. If you plan to attend the installation service in person, please register. You can do this on Facebook. There is a website which I'm told is not functional at the moment, but if you want to know how to register, you can contact me. I'm in Realm, and you can contact me and I can help you with that, or you can contact Peggy Garrigus. So I hope that you plan to participate in this exciting event. Reverend Diana Smith will be our official settled minister 2 weeks from today in the afternoon. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Sue. Well, good morning and welcome. I'm Reverend Diana Smith, the minister of the Unitarian Universalist Society, and it is wonderful to be with you all this morning. In these times of change, it is so important to be together, to come together as a spiritual community, to gain the sustenance that we each and all need, and to help nourish each other. As members of a covenantal faith that expresses our core value of love, through how we agree to be together and to support each other, it is good to come together and to affirm that even when we cannot yet all be together in body, this congregation remains strong and connected. And to affirm that we have faith and hope in this congregation, in each other, and in the ways we continue to grow together through the challenges of life. and to affirm that wherever any of us is on our life's journey, whether we come to worship with joy in our hearts, weighted with burdens, in need of rest, or searching for people to engage in the struggle with us, we are glad, and this community is glad that we are here. And so today, we will be recognizing, marking Indigenous Peoples Day and the work of water protectors here and around the world. And so as we begin today's special service, I'll share with you some remarks from Sharon Lungo of Ruckus/the Indigenous Environmental Network. They're found in Emergent Strategy by Adrienne Marie Brown. She writes, "Water has been my greatest teacher, partially because I am a woman and it is strong medicine that I carry, but also because of its sheer power. It has taught me to reflect on my own participation in work, taught me to remember the fundamentals that life is built on, that things cycle, that nothing is ever truly finished. So we have to stay vigilant and aware of how things move, even when we think we win. Lastly, water has taught me that with enough force and will, I am unstoppable." With enough force and will, I am unstoppable. We are unstoppable. And so, as we begin this service, Jim Laughlin in Xinghui will lead us in our opening hymn, Rising Green. If you're at UUS, as always, please sing softly into your mask, hum or move your hands or your body with the music. If you're at home, please feel free to sing as loudly as you would like.
This first hymn is in our blue book, but we've never sung it before. So if you stumble over the words like I might, just an up front, don't worry about it. We're going to get through this, and it's going to be fun. My blood doth rise in the roots of yon oak, her sap doth run in my veins, boundless my soul, like an open sky, where the stars forever have lain, where the stars, where the stars forever have lain. My hands hold the weavings of time without end, my sight as deep as the sea. Beating my heart sounds the measures of old, that of love's eternity, that of love, that of love, that of love's eternity. I feel the tides as they answer the moon, rushing on a far distant sand. Winging my song is the wind of my breast, and my love blows over the land. And my love, and my love, and my love blows over the land. My foot carries days of the old into new. Our dreaming shows us the way. Wondrous the face settles deep in the earth, rising green to bring a new day. Rising green, rising green, rising green to bring a new day.
I'm Margaret Kinsman, your worship associate this morning, and thank you, Jim. As Unitarian Universalists, we light a flame within a chalice as a symbol of sanctuary and safety to unite us in our worship and to remind us of our ongoing search for the light of truth. Please join me in the words as I light the candle. Life is a gift for which we are grateful. So let us now kindle the flame of our liberal religious heritage and renew our covenant of mutual love and care. Each week, when we light a candle for justice and healing, we hold space for our understanding of interdependence, that our liberation is bound up with every other person's liberation, and for our feelings of rage and heartbreak over the ongoing pandemics of illness and racism, the devastation of climate chaos, and the waves of trauma washing over our world. We light this candle to help us hold space together for processing what is happening in our lives and in our world, and to remind ourselves that together we are creating resilience and hope. We light this candle that we may not be numbed or lost to injustice, devastation, illness, and trauma, but rather find strength, courage, and love together to continue engaging with the struggles for liberation, justice, and healing. Today, as we light this candle, I invite you to be particularly mindful of the thousands of Afghans who recently fled the Taliban and who are now rendered largely stateless and homeless by host countries with inadequate resettlement programs, including, sadly, my own adopted country of Great Britain. And secondly, I'm inviting you to be mindful of the teenage victims of Facebook, TikTok, and Instagram, with great appreciation for Iowa City's own brave whistleblower, Frances Haugen.
I'll invite you to sing along with this as you feel comfortable. This is also new to you, I think, though if you've done it before and I didn't know about it, I'm sorry. As we come together, I quiet my mind. As we come together, I take a deep breath. As we come together, I listen inside. As we come together, I take my rest. Let us come together and quiet our minds. Let us come together and take a deep breath. Let us come together and listen inside. Let us come together and take a rest.
It is my great pleasure this morning to introduce a remarkable Indigenous woman to you today, Christine Nobis. Her Indigenous name is Sakawas, which means fierce, and it is very apt. Sakawas has been my friend and ally for about 6 years and my kin forever. We have worked together in the trenches in the struggle for a just and livable future. I recall a late night together in her tent at Standing Rock when she opened her heart to me and wept about the pain of the ongoing colonization of Indigenous peoples. And I recently learned that the bodies of several hundred Indigenous children were found on the site of an Indian boarding school near where she grew up in Canada. The practice of removing children and placing them in boarding schools spanned a century, over a century, from 1860 to 1978. All across Canada, the United States, hundreds of them. It forcibly removed children from their families, often treated them brutally, stripped them of their names, their hair, their clothes, their language, their culture, in the name of assimilation. And, as we are discovering, buried many of them. Many of their families never saw them again. If you detect anger in the voices of Indigenous activists, please know it's totally warranted. And I want to share with you this description of Sakawas from Bustle magazine. Sakawas is a member of the Plains Cree Saulteaux of the George Gordon First Nations in Saskatchewan, where she grew up. And she grew up in Winnipeg, Manitoba. She is a mother of 2 and the founder of the Great Plains Action Society. Sakawas has aptly titled herself a decolonizer. She has a master's degree in Native American Religious Studies and a graduate minor in Native American Indian Studies from the University of Iowa, and has been living in Iowa City for 15 years. As a mother, Sakawas is passionate about stopping the assault on the land, the peoples, and all living things so her children can have a better future. An active member of the Indigenous-led environmental movement since childhood, she believes that Indigenous sovereignty and knowledge are ways to decolonize both people and the colonial capitalist economy. The Great Plains Action Society that she founded was formally created in 2016 out of the No Dakota Access Pipeline movement, largely fought at the Standing Rock Reservation and throughout Iowa. Their mission? Using notions of Indigenous sovereignty and traditional ideologies, we strive for environmental and social justice, which are 2 issues that cannot be separated. As our climate changes, more people will suffer, and our mission is to help prevent the atrocities that are occurring to the earth and the people she nurtures. Sakawis will speak to us on a video about Indigenous Peoples Day, its meaning, and its promise.
Tansi, hello. My name is Sakawis, also Christine Nobis, and I'm Plains Cree Saulteaux of the George Gordon First Nation, and that's in Saskatchewan. And I grew up in Winnipeg, Manitoba. Both those places are in Canada, and I've been living in Iowa City for the past 15 years. I am the founder and executive director of Great Plains Action Society, which is a 100% Indigenous-led organization working to counter colonial violence. We work on social and climate justice issues, and we provide Indigenous perspectives and cultural traditions as ways to move forward into a new era of a climate emergency and the added social and justice pressures with that. I'm a mother of two, and I'm very honored to be able to speak to you today about Indigenous Peoples Day. Firstly, thank you for having me and for hearing my voice on this important day. And I want to start off by saying happy Indigenous Peoples Day. Today is a celebration of Indigenous voices and values and all the amazing things that Native folks are doing across Turtle Island. It's also a day, though, as well, that counters Columbus Day. Columbus Day being a problematic day for not just Indigenous folks, but Black folks and Latina folks, because to celebrate Columbus Day is to celebrate whitewashed history, is to celebrate the erasure of Indigenous history as well, and basically to celebrate genocide and slavery, because that's what Columbus did. And Columbus was not a good person. And so that's a very important point to make on this day, because unfortunately, though many places, many states, counties, cities across the nation are celebrating Indigenous Peoples Day, they're making Indigenous Peoples Day declarations, they are actually still celebrating Columbus Day, because it's not being banned or taken off the calendar. So in my opinion, Indigenous Peoples Day in Iowa is really just lip service, because it's really easy to say, great, let's put it on the calendar. What does that mean? What is actually being done to understand why it's being celebrated in the first place, if you're still going to celebrate Columbus Day? So on this day today, I ask you to think about that and to take action on it, to write the governor, to write Johnson County, Iowa City, the University of Iowa, write all these places and ask them, are they still celebrating Columbus Day? And they are, and ask them not to, because let's not celebrate somebody that did bad things. Let's celebrate Indigenous people and their voices on this wonderful day, and bring light to the many different ideologies that we should be uplifting right now. With this climate emergency that we have right now, Indigenous stewardship and Indigenous traditional ecological knowledge are the ways forward to creating a regenerative, economy that is one that is built on compassion and understanding, where things come from, how they fit into, our society, and if we really need these things. I'm talking about, consumerism and just like the way that we think, we think that God gave man dominion over the earth. It's really infiltrated like the whole entire world, and we need to have a paradigm shift in the way we think, and that's why Indigenous ways of being are really important, to push forward right now. I truly feel that Indigenous Peoples Day can help us come to more truth to more healing, reconciliation, and reparations, from the past, and so that we can build a more equitable future for everybody. I know that's what you all want, and that's definitely what I want to see happen, and what so many across this nation want to see happen. We can only do that by working together. So, on this day, just remember that the earth is our mother, and that we have a responsibility to keep her safe and happy, just like we do all of our relatives, and that we need to work very hard to make that happen, especially since we're not in a good place right now with the climate and the environment. Iowa is the most biologically colonized state in the country, so we have a lot of work ahead of us in terms of that healing and the cleansing that needs to happen. So again, thank you so much for having me. I hope you have a wonderful day. My name is Kawis. Ahai, kitata mehen.
Thank you, Sakawis. While the stories that many of us have been taught can tempt us to think that the history of the land that we live on began with our families or not so far away ancestors, we know that in reality we are guests here. So let us reflect on whose house we inhabit, who has cared for this place that we love before us. And in doing so, let's reflect on our responsibilities to other people and to Earth herself. On this Indigenous Peoples Day, as we acknowledge the people who originally lived on and stewarded the lands that we call home, the lands that we love, that this church, this congregational building sits on, we know that this cannot be an empty exercise, as Sakawis just spoke to so powerfully. And it should not be something that we do on this day alone. Rather, it's something that we do to continue our stewardship of this land, to acknowledge the pain of history, and to engage with a crucial part of our spiritual journeys as a loving, justice-making people who celebrate our interdependence and our interconnection, knowing that this means understanding the painful past in new ways and making it part of our current lives and our shared ministry. So I invite you to move now into a posture of acknowledgement and reverence, whatever that means for you. Whether that means holding your hand over your heart, kneeling, taking off your shoes to connect more closely with the earth, or something else. We give thanks for and to the land we sit or stand or lie upon, knowing that we are on the lands of the Kickapoo, later known as the Kickapoo, the Iowa, the Sauk and Meskwaki, and the Oceti-Sakowin, known as the Sioux, nations. 28 First Nations have ancestral ties to Iowa. These lands were the homes of these nations prior to their forced removal by European American settlers and the federal government. As we give thanks for these lands, we know that forced removal is a term that hides blood, terror, and genocide. And we know that these lands were and are loved by the original peoples, by the settlers who came after them, and by us today. And we acknowledge that today there are over 14,000 Native Americans living in Iowa. That, due to many injustices, desire for these lands, and horrific practices, there are no reservations in Iowa. Most original peoples were killed or driven far from their homes. That the Meskwaki Nation is the only one with a settlement here near Tama. And so we mourn, even as we give thanks for these lands and these waters, We give thanks for the work of the Great Plains Action Society, where Sakowis is a leader, and the Meskwaki Nation, who continue the work of stewarding these lands and waters and who work to share the long history of this area with us. In a moment, Peggy will drop links to them and their work into the chat. And in this time, I hope you, commit to learning more about and to collaborating with the Meskwaki and other Indigenous peoples on whose land we live and breathe and have our lives, and their projects and priorities, including food sovereignty, water protection, and self-determination. So may it be. Amen. And now, Marcia, will you share with us a story about water protectors?
Good morning. So the story that I am reading for you today is called We Are Water Protectors, and it was written by Carol Lindstrom and illustrated by Michaela Gold. Water is the first medicine, Nokomis told me. We come from water. It nourished us inside our mother's body, as it nourishes us here on Mother Earth. Water is sacred, she said. We stand with our songs and our drums. We are still here. The river's rhythm runs through my veins, runs through my people's veins. My people talk of a black snake that will destroy the land, spoil the water, poison plants and animals, and wreck everything in its path. When my people first spoke of the black snake, they foretold that it wouldn't come for many, many years. But now the black snake is here. Its venom burns the land, courses through the water, making it unfit to drink. Take courage. I must keep the black snake away from my village's water. I must rally my people together to stand for the water, to stand for the land, to stand as one against the black snake. We stand with our songs and our drums. We are still here. It will not be easy. We fight for those who cannot fight for themselves, the winged ones, the crawling ones, the four-legged, the two-legged, the plants, the trees, the rivers, the lakes, the earth. We are all related. Tears like waterfalls stream down and track down my face, tracks down my people's faces. Water has its own spirit, Nokomis told me. Water is alive. Water remembers our ancestors who came before us, she said. We stand with our songs and our drums. We are still here. We are stewards of the earth. Our spirits have not been broken. We are water protectors. We stand. The black snake is in for the fight of its life. And now I'm going to ask that we take a moment to silently contemplate the Earth Steward and Water Protector Pledge that you found on your seat or a seat near you.
Hello again. This segment is called The Shared Battle, and I want to share some stories with you that I've put in a timeline about my experiences in this shared battle for a livable future. It's been quite a journey. I've been standing alongside my Indigenous, First Nations, and Native American friends and allies in a shared battle to protect their treaty rights, sacred places, water, and the planet for all of us. So, 2013, venturing forth outside my comfort zone, which is where you have to start. First time I ventured out to stop a pipeline was to Nebraska in 2013, where an energy barn was being built by a collaborative group directly on the path of the proposed KXL pipeline from tar sands in Alberta, Canada. That journey taught me about fossil fuel pipeline threats and ignited me. And by the way, that pipeline was finally stopped on President Biden's first day in office. I head to 2014, the Great March for Climate Action. I walked 3,000 miles across the United States from Los Angeles to Washington, D.C. with the Great March for Climate Action for 8 months. Our mission was to raise the alarm about the impending climate catastrophe, and we spoke to thousands of people en route. This wonderful congregation actually hosted us when we crossed Iowa in our old building downtown. Walking past huge fossil fuel refineries and power plants, fracking operations, coal ash mountains along rivers, decimated communities, we learned about sacrifice zones. The most polluting, toxic industries are invariably built next to communities of people of color. The reality of climate injustice and planetary destruction walked across America with us. On that remarkable journey, some of the most hospitable, supportive, welcoming people we met were the Navajo, Hopi, and Pueblo people of the Southwest, who told us of their polluted and disappearing waterways due to increasing drought, and their suffering due to toxins from mining leases on their lands. 2015, Unistoten Action Camp. I traveled to the Unistoten Action Camp in northern British Columbia, way up there. These courageous and determined First Nations people were leaving their homes in the towns to re-inhabit their sovereign territory against Enbridge's threat of a tar sands pipeline across their unceded lands. Unceded means they never lost it in a battle. They never gave it away in a treaty. Their land still belongs to them. It doesn't belong to Canada. We spent a week at the action camp with the Unistoten people, learning about their culture, their history, their intergenerational trauma, and supporting their movement. Even though the Canadian Supreme Court has upheld their right to protect their unceded land, the battle to stop that pipeline continues to this day, with increasing threats and incursions onto their sovereign lands to build a pipeline to the coast for the export of planet-destroying fossil fuels. They told us when we were there that our white folks' presence with them made them safer from the Royal Canadian Mounted Police. In my view, that's a good use of white privilege. 2016, Standing Rock. You see my t-shirt I'm wearing today. By this time, I considered myself to be a climate action warrior with a strong focus on stopping fossil fuels pipelines. One of my mottos is, do what's in front of me. And the DAPL pipeline that originated in North Dakota, fracking, was moving toward Iowa. So I went north to North Dakota. I actually went 3 times. The first time I went was in spring of 2016, and it was to attend the only hearing the Army Corps of Engineers allowed the Lakota tribes. 2 hours is all they allotted. And grandmothers, chieftains, indigenous scientists, youth, and many others made their scientific and passionate case for protecting their homeland, their sacred historical sites, their treaty rights, and the source of their water. In the end, at the end of the hearing, all 2 hours, the captain of the Army Corps of Engineers who ran the meeting replied with a pretty heartless sentence: "Thanks for coming. Now we will do our job." And as you know, they approved the pipeline without an environmental impact statement or examining what that was going to do, both to the native people and to our planet. And that's still true today. There is no environmental impact statement. After that hearing, I drove to an encampment called Sacred Stone Camp I'd heard about. There were 6 tents, a lean-to for a kitchen, 1 teepee, and about 12 people, but they were clearly in it for the long haul. On my second trip, a couple of months later, it was now known as Standing Rock, named after the local Nakota tribe. I was greeted by beautiful flags along the roadway into the huge tent camp. The flags represented about 150 tribal groups across the United States, as well as many camps and many flags from around the world. I met people who had come to support Standing Rock from places like Norway, Nigeria, South America. I was very glad to see an Iowa flag among them. Supplies, support, and people were flowing in from everywhere to Standing Rock. By then, Standing Rock was a bustling town of 10,000 people, the second biggest city in North Dakota. Standing Rock was a stunning cultural renaissance for Native people, and I felt honored to witness it. Imagine a tent city of 10,000 people. During my week there, I observed amazing organization, cooperation, and community, and lots of ceremony and drumming. I wanted to find a way to be useful, so I spent 2 days in training for the Mental Health First Aid Teepee, led by a professional Lakota woman. It was intended to help address the large number of cases of PTSD that were emerging due to the violence people were facing as they made attempts to peacefully block the construction of the pipeline. It was very clear that old trauma, some of it intergenerational, was being triggered, and I wanted to help. One incident I recall that stands out. This is when I'm serving in the Mental Health First Aid Teepee. A young Native man was clearly very traumatized, and his friends brought him to the teepee. He was combatant and hostile towards us and possibly even psychotic. When it was clear we couldn't help him, one of our team sent him to an indigenous healer that she knew of who was also helping people who were traumatized. That young man came back to us a couple of hours later with a smile, a handshake, an apology, and a thank you. It was hard to believe the transformation. It was such a clear example of how one's own cultural traditions and practices are so effective and important, and why we should honor them. My third visit to Standing Rock was in November 8, 2016. Remember that date? How could I ever forget? I woke up and crawled out of my tent in the morning after the election, not knowing who had won. I walked up to the top of Media Hill where people went to use their cell phones, and I spotted a friend. When I saw the look on her face, I fell into her arms sobbing. Because at the moment I knew Trump had been elected, and I couldn't contain myself. She took me by the hand and led me down to the circle that had formed around the sacred fire in the center of the camp. It was a place for meeting and drumming. Someone from the mental health first aid teepee saw me and came over to stand by me. And when she noted my distress, she said this to me. I spoke with one of the elders a few minutes ago, and I want you to know what he said. Today, we will drum and dance, and we will sing. We will not give in to fear, because it is fear that feeds the darkness. Even now I get teary as I remember the calmness his wisdom brought to me. And I have called upon it many times. 2017, Mississippi Stand. You cannot call yourself a climate action warrior without some hard proof. By the way, warrior in the Lakota language means protector. So I'm back in Iowa working hard to prevent the DAPL pipeline from taking land from farmers through eminent domain for the profits of an out-of-state corporation threatening our soil and waterways all across the state. I testified at the only Iowa Utility Board meeting along with other members of the 100 Grannies. And hundreds of farmers and other citizens. Again, they granted the permit. In protest, a large coalition of groups came together. We did flotillas, sit-ins, media events, street theater, drama, banner drops. You may have seen some of those in Iowa City. We lobbied our legislators, wrote letters to newspapers, and much, much more. We did everything we could think of. It finally became clear that we needed to up the ante. So, about 30 of us were arrested near Boone for blocking equipment that was drilling under the Des Moines River. Afterward, I paid my fine, gave a speech to the media, and came home to fight another day. The DAPL pipeline progressed across Iowa toward the Mississippi. Hundreds of folks from tribal groups across the country and activists from who knows where showed up at an encampment we called Mississippi Stand. It was next to the river near Keokuk. We were trying to prevent drilling under the mighty Miss. After many weeks of protests, we finally stormed the fences to stop the drill. And another 30 of us were arrested. 4 other grannies and I were arrested, pled not guilty, prepared for trial, only to have our case dismissed when we were on our way to a pretrial hearing down in Keokuk. We were sorely disappointed not to have our day in court. We knew the law was protecting criminals who were destroying the planet and persecuting those of us who would protect it. Despite all our efforts, the DAPL was completed, and since then, millions and millions of barrels of toxic crude have flowed from North Dakota to Illinois for eventual shipment to the Gulf for export on the global market. All for planet, all for profit, not planet, not people, not rights or treaties, but profit for the richest corporations in history. The flow through DAPL has recently doubled with approval from the Iowa Utilities Board, and still no viable environmental impact statement. 2018, lest you think this is endless, I'll finish with a quick story about the First Nation Farmer Climate Unity March, a 94-mile, week-long September walk along the route of the Dakota Access Pipeline in central Iowa from Des Moines to Fort Dodge. A small group of about 25 folks, about half Indigenous people from way beyond Iowa, had a chance to get to know our fellow travelers and to bear witness together of the damage already done and the potential lurking under our ground every minute of the day, as well as under the Missouri and the Mississippi and all the rest of our waterways. Pipelines leak every day, and when they do, they create further damage to already traumatized people and environments. But on this march, we were together again, white and Indigenous kin, in our fight for a just and livable future. As we walked together, we heard their stories of living with the earth and with harmony with the earth. And we heard them talk about the earth with gratitude and respect. Those values are largely lost to us with our white, colonial, capitalistic, materialistic lifestyles. One of my mottos is, you don't lose until you quit. That is one of the most important lessons I have learned, and my Indigenous friends and allies have been and continue to be exemplary in that regard. I honor their friendship, their values, and their courage. I hope we can listen and learn. Everything is at stake.
Fly high like a bird over the mountains. Under the clouds is a place we roamed. The land that we burned, our people have drowned in. We've moved all around it. It once was home.
Being haunted by a distant past, redirected down a different path. Our people didn't have a choice as we're thinking back. Is there respect for the land where we fish and trap?
Survivors of the valley, the language lives. Revival of Sakani, tradition gives. Danny's eye, more hope, more medicine, giving us strength for the future to spread our wings. On the rocks, the shores and trees, heal the wounds, the stars and broken dreams. Broken dreams. Beyond the rocks, there's more to see. The leaders of the valley were born to be. Born to be.
Deni hako klawi shenoe, chidala asai.
Need a little change, try to spark a fire. We can't stay the same. What the heart desires. Smoke signals to the world as it gets higher. Can't say we never made it cause we are survivors.
The young generation, the choice is ours. The voice of a nation, we got the power. As the pain fades away, let it rain and shower. We were the calm before the storm, now we're getting louder.
They say it's all business, I call it destruction. Money breeding greed and causing corruption. Our culture is key and brings honest discussion. Say gay is independent, the truth we're becoming.
Heart numb and past, mind is the present. Talk to the elders, our eyes are reflected. Fast forward to the now, find your direction. Make better choices, the future's where we're headed.
Beyond the rocks, the shores and trees, heal the wounds, the stars and broken dreams.
Broken dreams.
Broken dreams.
Broken dreams.
Beyond the rocks, there's more to see. The leaders of the valley
la sha nizanawa. Azi dane la ziche.
Every demon that I couldn't hide, all the deadly pain that was buried deep inside was keeping me from finding the only reason I
needed in my life to share and forgive. Our tradition we live, we will dare to begin. Go beyond all the changes. You fly over mountains, you hear the sacred youth united and shouted.
Beyond the rocks, the shores and trees, heal the moons, the stars and broken dreams. Broken dreams, broken dreams. Beyond the rocks, there's more to see. The leaders of the valley we're born to be. Born to be, born to be, born to be. Beyond the rocks, the shores and trees, heal the moons, the stars and broken dreams. Broken dreams, broken dreams, broken dreams. Beyond the rocks, there's more to see. The leaders of the valley we're born to be. Born to be, born to be.
Morning. When we were kids, we played cowboys and Indians. We were running around, whooping and hollering and shooting our fake guns. We knew who the good guys and the bad guys were. Well, fortunately, as I've become an adult, my level of sophistication regarding who is a good guy and who is a bad guy has greatly expanded. When I think of Indigenous Peoples Day, I think of the good guys. Armando planting thousands of trees in the highlands of Guatemala. Pablo and Modesta fleeing that same country because there are no jobs and they needed to save their family. When I think of Indigenous Peoples Day, I think of those in the Catholic worker house being sheltered there. When I think of Indigenous Peoples Day, I think of Michael Littlefeather, a water protector who was at Standing Rock and arrested and imprisoned, and who doesn't get his mail from the federal prison because they're returned to sender. When I think of Indigenous Peoples Day, I think of Line 3. Line 3 is an enormous pipeline extending from Alberta, Canada to Lake Superior. It crosses rivers and streams, rice lakes, wild rice lakes, and bogs and ponds and cranberry bogs. Enbridge built this pipeline to carry tar sands. Enbridge, a company from Canada who has an extremely poor record of oil spills. The ecological damage from this pipeline is notable. There were mud spills caused by the drilling that they had to do. The lake levels were lowered because they needed water to do the drilling. Sensitive ecological systems were destroyed. Just this week, the Minnesota Department of Natural Resources fined Enbridge $3.3 million for the damage they did to an aquifer and a sensitive ecological area. This Enbridge, were they good guys or were they bad guys? When I think of Indigenous Peoples Day, I think of the 3 grandmother water protectors. They set up their folding chairs to block Enbridge. They were promptly arrested for aggravated misdemeanor, when really they should have gotten a citation for trespassing. They were promptly thrown into jail, and their bail was set at $10,000. These were not the only people that stood up to Enbridge. 800 people were arrested, most of them having to spend time in jail. Last June, I was really fortunate to be able to be with these water protectors. They asked people to come from everywhere to join them for a water ceremony and to recognize the importance of and the sacredness of that water. Tribal leaders from all over the country were there. Celebrities showed up, leaders, local leaders, and many allies, all with signs and all with intent to draw attention to this issue. They were good guys. In August, 4 of us from UU Society went up to the Capitol in Minnesota, in St. Paul. I guess you could call us good guys. We attended a rally to draw attention to the politicians who were doing nothing to stop this pipeline. However, both Governor Walz and President Biden had pledged to reduce fossil fuels. Well, they could have done it quickly by stopping this pipeline. Were these good guys or were they bad guys? These experiences changed me. I became more resolved to do something about climate justice. I realized that it had to do with rectifying what existed. But you know what I also thought about? I can't do this alone. Climate justice requires all of us, 100% of us, to work for climate justice. Well, what about us Unitarian Universalists? Are we good guys or are we bad guys? Well, we say in our lighting the chalice, we say things about love and quest for truth and service is our prayer. And what about our closing, the fire of commitment? We've made promises. Let's get into action. Let's be the good guys.
And so I invite you into a time of meditation, contemplation, and prayer. Spirit of life, we hold in our hearts the peaceful protesters of all tribes, nations, and faiths who are gathered in many places around the world, protecting sacred water and land. They ask for respect. They ask for our government to help protect our sacred lands and the water that sustains our lives. We know that the quest to build pipelines, the actions of those building and funding them, are fed by our thirst for oil and the legacy of the doctrine of discovery. We know that we are often complicit in this, whether through investments of our own or the groups or banks we're part of, our use of fossil fuels, or our complacency. This weighs heavily on our hearts. Spirit of grace, please help all of us find a new path forward, away from the wrongs of the past and the life-denying legacy of oppression. We pray for peace, light, and grace for water protectors. Spirit of love, help us find ways to stand with water protectors, with the seventh generation, whether on the front lines by divestment or by our daily actions. We pray for the safety of all water protectors and all who are involved in this struggle. Spirit of life, help us help Mother Earth heal, and in turn heal ourselves. We pray for strength, courage, and steadfast patience for water protectors. May their strength and perseverance lead to the protection of these sacred lands and waters. For water is life. Blessed be. Amen.
I'm Diana Miller, and I have the great honor of being co-chair of the Stewardship Committee with an amazing group of volunteers. This morning, we have heard moving stories about land and water stewards. And I come to speak to you about another type of stewardship. We are living in extraordinary times, which call for generous giving. Our dedicated staff, our enriching programs and outreach to the broader community, and this amazing land and building are financially driven by the pledges that all of you make, our members and our friends. During the pandemic, pledges have dropped, and many income-generating events and church rentals have had to be canceled, putting a huge strain on our society's budget. As we began the stewardship campaign a couple of weeks ago, Reverend Diana asked each of us to reflect on the question of how UUS has supported and helped you to deepen your commitment to yourself and to others during this time of a pandemic. As you reflect on this question, may you find yourself sitting in a place of abundance for all that you draw from this UU society. As we enter the final week of our stewardship campaign, we still need to raise $189,257 to reach our goal of $420,000. If you haven't pledged, now's the time. We ask you to pledge by this Thursday, October 17th, because the U.S. budget process relies on knowing how much has been pledged by our society. Please join us next Sunday, where we will announce the total amount raised and celebrate our commitment. These times call for bold action, and pledging is our shared responsibility. Thank you.
As we've been really powerfully reminded this morning by these stories from our fellow congregants, how we give, what we do with our lives, our time, and our resources is a reflection of our values. And deep pockets, just think deep pockets. In response to the abundance we are blessed with, every week this congregation donates generously to organizations in the community whose work aligns with our values and principles. When a month has 5 Sundays, the offerings for one Sunday service goes to an identified need in the community or as a response to a natural disaster. So today, October 5th Sunday offering will go to the Catholic Worker House, Sally mentioned it, an organization that serves immigrant and refugee families. In addition to offering temporary lodging, they are currently expanding to a second house in Iowa City. They offer food to whoever comes to the house, rent assistance, protective accompaniment, and deportation defense. On the screen, you'll see instructions for how to give online, or you may take the time to write a check and address an envelope to UUS to be put in the mail. If you're attending this service here in the sanctuary, you can give online. You can give online, or there is a basket for checks in the atrium. The usher can help you find it. You may assist our community partner, contribute to the congregation to provide additional support for our operating expenses, or contribute towards your pledge to our society, or all of the above, all of them. The offering is a sign of commitment to this free congregation, which is completely supported by the voluntary generosity of all who join with us. As we give and receive the offering, may we be transformed by our giving, and may the world be transformed by our gifts. Alex.
So this song was written by Sarah Thompson after she was at the Standing Rock camp. And it has a phrase in Lakota, which is Miniwachoni, which is water is life. All my relations come, every nation come, all my relations under the sun, we are one. We are praying, come. We are praying, come. We are the song and we are the drum. We are one. We are the river, come. We are the river, come. We are the boat, the paddle, the shore. We are one. Many Wachoni sing. Many Wachoni sing. Many Wachoni, water is life for everything. We are the water, sing. We are the water, sing. We are the water, we are where all life begins. We are the ancient ones. We are the ancient ones. In your breath and bones we sing on. We are one. We are the meadow, come. We are the meadow, come. We are the lark that sings, the new day has begun. We are the new day, run, run, run. We are the new day, run, run, run. We are the old and we are the young. We are one. Many Wachoni sing. Many Wachoni sing. Many Wachoni, water is life for everything. We are the water, sing. We are the water, sing. We are the water, we are where all life begins. We are the earth and sky. We are the thunder cries. We are the fire, we are the light in your eyes. We are standing strong, like a rock, like a stone. On the sacred ground we belong. We are home. All my relations come. Every nation come. All my relations under the sun, we are one.
Words with that wonderful music in our heads. Thank you.
It's my job.
Well, we're nurturing gratitude. How we understand and express interdependence is part of how we live into our Unitarian Universalist faith. May what has been shared today help us more fully affirm our interconnection and live into love and justice. Immediately after the service, we will have time for all to join in conversation and community, whether you're online or in the sanctuary. After the service, a host will explain the process for that location. Sally, Reverend Diana.
As for call to action, I have a few suggestions. Just quickly, drive less, eat less meat, and join an organization that supports environmental climate work. I have two suggestions. Has anybody seen these? Okay, they were in the Thursday updates. So you can read all the details, but I'll just tell you, one is an event that actually it's a workshop that will carry over 5 weeks and will focus on drawdown or the ability for us to come up with solutions to address climate change. So you can just email me if you're interested, and I can send you more information, or if you want to register, email me. This event is being hosted by the Iowa UU Witness and Advocacy Network, and it is a presentation by Brian Campbell, and he is Executive Director of the Iowa Environmental Council. So he's the keynote, and everyone's invited to this. Check your Thursday updates for more information or contact me.
So we have heard many stories and music. We know that we are the ones. We also know and have heard many words about how Indigenous Peoples Day should not just be one day, but rather is reflected in our actions year-round. Whether we're talking about our actions around the environment, around water protection, or other commitments, like commitments to learning about the Meskwaki and other tribes and nations who call this land home, commitments to learning about Indigenous Peoples Day and to contacting government officials who have not yet recognized it, as Sakowis talked about specifically. Today, you may be making commitments about learning about and engaging with environmental struggles, particularly for water protection, commitments to learning about and divesting from companies who are funding and building pipelines. Sally has talked about some specific ways that you can learn and take action. I hope that as we leave this time and leave this place, that you will follow some of those commitments. As we sing our closing hymn, Blue Boat Home, I invite you to reflect on what it means, that this is our blue boat home that we all hold, what it means to sing this as we move towards Indigenous Peoples Day tomorrow, and all the meanings that this day holds for so many of us. So, if you're here at UUS, please sing softly into your mask, or hum, or move your hands or body. If you're at home, please feel free to sing Blue Boat Home as loudly as you would like.
Please rise and ride the blue boat home. Though below me I feel no motion, standing on these mountains and plains, far away from the rolling ocean, still my dry land heart can say, I've been sailing all my life now, never harbor or port have I known. The wide universe is the ocean I travel, and the earth is my blue boat home. Sun, my sail, and moon, my rudder, as I fly the starry sea, leaning over the edge in wonder, casting questions into the deep, drifting here with my ship's companions, all we kindred pilgrim souls, making our way by the lights of the heavens in our beautiful blue boat home. I give thanks to the waves upholding me, hail the great winds urging me on, Greet the intimate sea before me, sing the sky my sailor's song. I was born upon the fathoms, never harbor or port have I known. The wide universe is the ocean I travel, and the earth is my blue boat home.
I wouldn't have thought it was possible to love a song more, but I do now. I've always loved that one. Now more. Please join me in the words for extinguishing the chalice. We extinguish this flame, but not the light of truth, the warmth of community, or the fire of commitment. All these we carry in our hearts and in our minds until we are together again.
As you go out into the day and the week ahead, may you celebrate and honor Indigenous Peoples Day. May we learn, reflect, and live into ever deeper commitments to holding our interdependence in all that that means. And may you go in peace, love, and justice, living love ever more fully and fiercely into this world. Amen, and blessed, blessed be.
May we kindle
Amen.